Why would anybody want to go into retirement? 2, 3, 4 decades without working, without knowing how that's actually going to play out for them? Obviously, they wouldn't. But what are you supposed to do if you don't know how to figure all that out? Or if your financial advisor is too busy golfing? What are you going to do then? Stick around, I'll show you. Full disclosure right off of the bat, today I'm going to be showing you all of this while demonstrating how we build out financial plans for our clients and the key things that we focus on. But we don't kid around. We use the best software in the business, hands down. This software uses artificial intelligence to map out your entire future, and it shows us the implications of any decision that we want to make, whether we want to downsize a house or whether we want to take CPP a little bit earlier or a little bit later. And it shows us how it impacts everything from our retirement income all the way down to the net value of our estate after taxes. And it does all of this on the fly. It's absolutely crazy. And obviously, when you combine that kind of technology with a really solid advisor, you're going to be pretty good to go. But obviously not everybody has this or has access to this, but you don't have to either. You can actually do all of this stuff on your own. And if you stick around a little later in the video, I'm going to point you to some resources that you can get to for free if you want to actually do this on your own. Obviously, they're not going to be as detailed or as accurate or as fancy or have all the capacities that the software that I use will have, but still, it's infinitely better than trying to go into retirement blind without knowing your numbers. But enough said, let's get into this. The example I'm using here today, we're using a fictitious couple, Harry and Sherry demo, and we can see here that they actually have a number of goals already lined out in the software. We've got a retirement goal, we've got an emergency fund, and they want to go on a trip to Greece, and then plus we're also calculating out for their estate. But to keep things simple, we're just going to focus in on the retirement goal. First things that we look for, and actually these are the exact same things that you're going to look for, is you need to get your basic data. You need to have a good solid idea of what your goals are just to start off with. Obviously, when you want to retire is going to be the key goal. Is that a certain age? Is that a certain event? Is it going to be the same for you as it is for your spouse? You need to think about all of those things in advance. But next, you also really need to think about how much money you want to be spending in retirement, always remembering that retirement can be a very long period of time and you're not really working unless you're semi-retired, which is also a great idea, by the way, but that is a lot of money that you need to pull in from other sources. But anyway, it's a significant part of your plan. You can see here that I've built out a couple stages for these clients here. They've got their go-go stage and their slow-go stage. And in each stage here, they're going to be spending a different amount of money. So obviously in the go-go stage, they're younger in retirement. They're doing a lot more traveling, and maybe you're going to be doing the same thing. So you want to plan that out. You want to plan to have more money every month in your jeans so that you're able to do the things that you want to do while you're still mobile and active. But then obviously we start to slow down as we age, and this is where we hit the slow go stage, and perhaps our income needs are going to drop at that point. You know, when you're building out your own plan, you can just use one number to keep it simple, or you can break it down. A lot of the different free softwares out there probably aren't going to give you a lot of capacities in this area to change your income throughout retirement, but just know that it's not necessarily going to stay the same the entire way. You know, a lot of people often ask, well, how much am I going to need in retirement? It's really a subjective question. A good rule of thumb that a lot of people use is 70%, but again, it's just going to depend on what you think you need. So doing a pre-retirement budget of what you think you're going to need before you actually get there is obviously a really good idea. You're also going to need to know how much money you're going to have in your different accounts that you're saving in, whether that's an RRSP or a tax-free savings account, non-registered account. You're going to want to lay out all of that data. And if you're regularly contributing to those plans, you're also going to want to know that, because it's going to affect the value of what those plans are going to be by the time you're actually going to need them. Another massively important detail when it comes to planning out your future are the different pensions that you're going to be getting, because they can make up a substantial amount of your retirement income. So you can see here that we've entered CPP, Canada Pension Plan, and OAS, Old Age Security, for both Harry and Sherry. And we've given both of them 100% for old age security, because that's just based on how long you've lived in Canada. And if you've lived here your whole life, well, then you're going to get 100%. So that's the case for a lot of people. And you can see that my software actually lays out what that number is going to be when they retire. So we already know that in advance. When it comes to CPP, this is based more on your contributions to the plan. And so everyone can actually have different numbers when it comes to CPP. So you can log into My Service Canada to get your own CPP estimates, which I highly recommend that everybody does. Otherwise, you just basically have to guess. And in this case, we're just going to guess because Harry and Sherry haven't bothered to do that for me. And so I've just got ballpark numbers. We're going to give them 85% each. And we can again see the amount that that's going to be when they hit retirement. So we can already see here that their CPP and their OAS combined between the two of them is actually making up a substantial chunk of their retirement income. Now, of course, you may have an employer that also has a pension plan for you too. And so you're going to want to have that data ready too, because obviously that can make up another substantial chunk of your retirement income. Now, we also need to know about properties, especially if you have a rental property, because you have rental income that's going to be potentially coming in to help you through retirement as well. Also, though, it's good to know about your primary residence, your main home, if you own it. Now, typically when I do planning with clients, I do not like to plan for their main residence to be part of the retirement plan unless we know they're going to be doing a downsize and therefore going to end up with a big chunk of capital that we'll be able to put towards their retirement income. But otherwise, we like to just keep that in the background. And that can be a backup asset in case everything else goes wrong. We've always got that to rely on. And at minimum is something that we can pass down to the next generation. And then obviously, finally, just to keep things simple here, you're really going to need to know about your liabilities, especially if you're going to be carrying those into retirement. If you're going to be carrying a mortgage into retirement, you absolutely have to plan for that because it's going to affect everything. Now, once you have all your basic data gathered, you're really well on your way to seeing if your retirement plan is actually going to work out for you. In my software, it actually shows us how we're tracking as a percentage. So you can see that Harry and Sherry are 92% of the way towards their goal. It becomes our job trying to figure out how can we get that thing to 100% or more and build in some buffer. We look down here at the chart that we have, we can actually see each one of these bars here represents a year of their retirement, and it breaks down the different income sources that they have. So you can see here that this first year of retirement is made up of CPP and some of old age security, rental income, and then they're pulling some from their non-registered. Now, we haven't done any planning or any strategies here to optimize, but this is just showing us if we don't do anything, this is where all of these sources of income are going to come from. But what I want to draw your attention to here is actually the red, the shortfalls. So what we're seeing here is that there's actually this chunk of time and later on in their retirement where they actually do not have enough of their own assets to pay for their retirement goals. Now remember, they still have a home and they actually have a rental property too that they could sell. But in terms of liquid cash, this couple does not have enough to fund their goals. And so they'd have to figure out other ways to solve that. And obviously that's part of my job as their planner to advise them how best to do that. And that's where really good software like this comes in incredibly handy. We can actually play out ideas before we do them and we can see what the implications are going to be. As many of you may know, if you choose to delay your CPP and not take it right at 65, you'll actually get an increased benefit for the rest of your life. So it's at minimum worth checking out how the numbers work out for you. We can see here with Harry and Sherry that if we click off this box and we choose to delay CPP until age 70, that this actually dramatically reduces the amount of shortfalls that they're going to have in their retirement. Now, that does mean that they're going to be spending a lot of their own money earlier, but in the end, they're still spending the same amount of money. They're just ending up with a whole lot less shortfall. Now, whether or not that Harry and Sherry actually want to do this is entirely up to them, but this allows us to play out those scenarios and see what they would look like before we actually make the decisions. And of course, maybe they don't want to wait till 70, maybe they want to wait until, some other age, and we can play with that month by month. We can see the implications of any of these decisions, or even if they want to take it early, what would the implications of those decisions be? And we can see all of those things before we actually do them. Incredibly important. But let's just say they both do decide that they want to do it. They want to delay CPP until age 70. Well, we can see here that that takes their goal from 92% on track all the way up to 98%. So we can see that this is a pretty good strategy for them if they want to implement it. You're going to want to look at these things too and do calculations on your own CPP estimates to figure out whether or not it's worth delaying for you as well. And of course, you have the same option to delay with old age security, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Now, because we're only at 98%, we're not quite where we need to be. So what else can we do to fix this situation for them? Well, what if we just reduce the amount that they want to spend in retirement by just a little bit, just by 5%? We can see here that this actually takes them all the way up to 104% of their goal solved. So that's a significant jump. And we haven't reduced it by a ton, only by 5%. That's definitely the kind of decision that you want to make before you enter retirement rather than later when you realize you're running out of money. And of course, another massive variable that everybody has is choosing when they want to retire. Delaying retirement obviously means you're not pulling out from your own resources any earlier, or maybe not touching CPP or OAS earlier. And so that can have massive implications as well. And we can see in the case of Harry and Sherry here that if we just hold off by 1 year, that it actually takes us to 109% solved. So we've gone from 92 to 109% just by clicking a few buttons here. And obviously those are real world implications, but we built in buffer into their retirement plan now. And so it makes everything that they're going to do far more solid, far more secure. And that's because we've spent the time to plan and to think ahead. Now, another thing that we haven't looked at here at all is semi-retirement. What if you were to work part-time in retirement? And obviously that can have massive implications. It can make all of your resources last far longer. But again, beyond the scope of this particular video. For the sake of time, I'm just going to show you one more thing that I like to do when looking at retirement plans, and that is stress testing what we've done. So right now we've built out everything with rosy scenarios and everything is working in our favor. But what if some terrible things happen? What if inflation runs way higher than we anticipate for way longer than we anticipate? What happens then? You can see here when I've done that, I've built in an extra 1% to inflation over their retirement. And that may or may not happen, but it's good for us to at least look at the possibility of happening that. Given all of the debt that our governments have brought on, what are at least the chances of higher inflation for a much longer period? I would say they're at least decent. So what would that look like if that happened? Well, you can see here that we built out this beautiful plan. We got ourselves to 109%, but inflation, something that we don't get to control, ran hotter for quite a bit longer. And now our plan is actually down to 90%. So we're actually not solved anymore. We're actually in a position where we are less than what we were hoping for. So that's why it's always a great idea to build a buffer. Now, there's a bunch of different what if scenarios that we can look at, and I can get into that in another video. But to keep things short and sweet, always make sure you have a buffer in your retirement plan. And now that's the software that we use, but obviously not everybody has access to this kind of stuff. And so I did mention that I would point you in the direction of some free resources. And in fact, it really is easy to find. All you need to do is Google Canadian Retirement Calculator. Now, one of the first ones you're going to see here is the Canadian Retirement Income Calculator that's built out by our government. And so we have to assume that it's at least somewhat legit. Now, obviously, when you're Googling, you're going to find a whole bunch of different retirement calculators that are built out by financial institutions. And most of them are entirely free and will at least give you a mediocre look at what your future could look like. Now, that said, there is one calculator that I will recommend that you take a look at, only because I really trust the source. Frederick Viti, I have no idea if I pronounced that guy's name right. I probably butchered it, but I have read his book, Retirement Income for Life, and it is a pretty solid resource, especially if you're trying to do all of this stuff on your own. But you can see here that he was a chief actuary of a very large firm in Canada. Absolutely knows what he's doing, what he's talking about, and they have put together a retirement income calculator, and I have every reason to trust him just because his competence in the field. So I would recommend that you take a look at this one if you're looking for a free resource and you want to try to do this on your own. In closing, I do this for a living. And so I have seen a lot of different situations, and I have seen a lot of different people who are about to go into retirement blind come into my office, and we've made a number of decisions in software so that we could see the implications of those decisions before actually doing them and seeing how that's entirely shifted the decisions that they were going to make. Do not go into your retirement blind. You don't have to pay someone else to do this for you. You obviously can. Services like mine exist, but you can actually do this on your own. Yes, it will take legwork. Yes, it will take work, but do not go into your retirement blind.